Hi everybody, it's Friday the 16th of October, and just wanted to say welcome to Facebook Friday for another week. So I'm Kate Wakelin and I'm from Neuroendocrine Cancer Australia, and you will notice that I have got a guest with me today. So Sylvie Camilleri, who has very generously joined us, and I'll be introducing Sylvie a little bit more in a minute. But before I go any further, I just wanted to pay acknowledgement to the owners of the land that I am broadcasting to you from, which is the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And I would just like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. One of the things I love about being able to live where I live is going for a run along the Yarra River, which is in the Woiwurrung language is called the Birrung. So I am deeply grateful for where I am from, and especially at the moment because I can't stray more than 5 kilometres from my front door, which is the situation for everybody in Melbourne, unless you're going to treatment really. And but good news on the COVID front today with a much reduced number of positive diagnoses. So I know we're all hanging out and waiting for a little bit of easing of restrictions. So just again, a shout out that we have been giving every week to everyone in Melbourne who's enduring a maybe more impact from coronavirus than other parts of the country, but knowing that actually it's impacting on everybody worldwide. So just knowing that actually it's, things are stressful even when you don't have, things are stressful with coronavirus even without cancer. And a lot of people are finding it actually really hard to just keep their heads in the right space with just coronavirus. And I know that, for most of the people who are watching, they're watching because NETS is part of their lives. So just, acknowledgement of the challenges that everyone's enduring because of that. So this week is National Carers Week, and I just thought it was a really fabulous opportunity to start to spend some time to give our carers some love and attention, and to think about these really important people in our community who often go a little bit less noticed. And I know that in the mainstream health system, the focus of care is always the patient, and it's probably the right approach. You at the end of the day, you want the tumours to be shrinking and you want the treatments to be working, and you've got to make sure that you're managing side effects and all of that stuff. But the unit of care for that health system is actually the patient. But behind that patient and around that patient is a network of people. And actually, often we make a bit of an assumption that a person will have one carer, but we know that there are always lots of people, well, usually lots of people in our patients' lives. And so that role of being a carer is actually often dissipated amongst a whole group. And actually sometimes, that adage of taking a village that we often use about raising children, I think it's also, it can be applied to when we've got someone living with cancer, that gosh, a village, you really need your village. So, but yeah, so today I wanted to focus on carers, and I am so grateful because we've got Sylvie Camilleri, who has been so brave and courageous and agreed to chat with us today. And I think it's amazing because that it's just deeply personal, and it's very private. This I'm not going to say the word journey, but the experience of being a carer. And Sylvie's laughing at because journey is a bit of a dark, nasty, do not mention word. But the role of the carer and the experience of the carer is it's private, and it's a bit tricky sometimes, often. So I think that I'm looking forward to hearing Sylvie's experiences today. And yeah, so grateful to you, Sylvie, for joining us.
Thank you.
And Sylvie is the perhaps better half of Mark.
I like to think so, but if you ask him, you're not going to get that.
Oh, look, well, he's not in the room, no. So we can say whatever we like, Sylvie. But we heard from Mark a couple of weeks ago, and I know that video was actually really popular. And I think, one of the things I love about Mark and Sylvie is that they say things how they are. And so we've heard Mark's side of the story, and I think it's well and truly time that we heard from Sylvie. So welcome and thank you.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
And really. Sylvie, you're in Melbourne too, aren't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we're kind of
it'll all get better.
So, and I can see lots of people have joined us and are already saying hello. So I know Sylvie can't see these comments, but you'll be able to hop in later and say hi to everyone back. And yeah, so we've talked about a few things that I wanted to get Sylvie to chat about today. So I'm just wondering, Sylvie, if we could start just by you describing what it was like for you. We heard from Mark a couple of weeks ago about what it was like for him when he was diagnosed. I'm really keen to know what that was like from your perspective.
It was one of the biggest shocks of my life. Especially because Mark was so healthy. Then for him to go into hospital and our world just turn upside down was just such a shock. Like, I think I cried for weeks on end because there was nothing that I didn't know enough about it. And I remember my brother had gone through leukemia the year before, and he'd had 7 months of such intense treatment. And I just didn't want that for Mark. I was like, I hope he doesn't have to go through all this. We were scared. I was so scared because it's beyond my control. I can't, normally in my household, I can control what's going on. And this was just beyond anything that I'd ever experienced before, you know. Then anger set in, started to creep in, and it was scared. Like, I was just so angry with the world, you know, like it wasn't fair. And it never is. Cancer's not fair. It's not discriminate. It's not because he did something wrong. It was just because it happened. You know, his body was turning on itself. So then I just started to get worried about everything that was going on, like the girls, how were they going to take it, Daniel, and everything. So it was just.
How old are your kids, just for those of you who, you know, those who are watching?
Okay. Mark and I have two girls, Sammy and Sienna. Sammy's 13 now. So she was 9 when he got diagnosed, and Sienna was 6 and she's 10 now. Mark's got a son from his previous marriage who is also my son, but he's 27. So I think he hit me the hardest because he actually felt it, whereas the girls were so young that we could shield them from it. But I remember him sitting at the bench and just crying. I was like, I can't do anything here. You know, it was just really hard. And sorry, let me get a tissue and then we'll continue.
And the tissues, we'll just keep them. I hope you've got a box of tissues at your end, everybody, too, because we need to do, we need to get a sponsorship from a tissue company, don't we?
We should invest. We'd make millions.
And Sylvie, what I'm hearing from you is that not only were you grappling with your own reaction to Mark's news, but you were also the primary person who was looking out for the other people in the family, so your kids, but I'm also imagining the extended family a bit as well.
Yeah, like everyone kept ringing me up, and like, because when he first got diagnosed, he come home and the hospital had done it really badly. Like, they'd said, I'll just walk down to the waiting room, we can't do anything for you. So he thought, you know, that's it. So he went out the next day and spent a bloody fortune on the kids like he does. And then it wasn't till we actually got the diagnosis of NETs that we could, you know, just relax and say, right, well, this is not a death sentence. Like, if you look after yourself and you do your treatments, you know, you can live with this for a long time. And we get so, I do anyhow, like when I read that people have gone 15, 20 years, I'm like, that's you. You're not going to go yet. You're going to be here for as long as I can keep you here. Yeah.
So it sounds like you were really like that central hub point, that the center of all of the people were coming to you for that information and reassurance, and you were still really very much digesting. Yeah, it was
difficult in the beginning because I had to like try and contain my fear and, you know, my heartbreak and answer everyone's questions, you know, and everyone would say, oh, how's he going? And I'd go, well, from what I know. You know, especially the early days when he was in pain, it was awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah. And Sylvie, I know that there's been plenty of challenges. are you able to talk with us about some of the challenges that have happened for you?
Look, I'm happy to talk about the challenges. I think the biggest one was staying positive, like trying to keep Mark positive, and also myself positive, and so that we didn't scare the kids too much. But we've always been really honest with them, so that they know what's going on. So if anything does happen, it's not it'll be heartbreaking, but it won't be a shock. Like, it's not as though they don't know what's going on. Like, every time Mark's in hospital, they come in with me, we sit with him and things like that. Except for the last time because of coronavirus. I had to leave him in the waiting room, and I kept coming back going, no, I want to come in. He's like, no, you can't. And the nurses are like, no, you can't. I'm like, well, no, I've never left him before.
Yeah, so that's just an extra layer, on top of the stress of leaving, of having your partner in hospital, but having to leave them there, and your kids not being able to see him. And again, I feel like you're the person who's managing all of that for them, for the whole family.
I just really thank technology, like with FaceTime and things like that, the girls could see their dad and that he was okay. Whereas if it had been 20 years ago, there would have been no contact whatsoever, and that's really difficult. But as far as the other challenges, I think keeping Mark looking after himself, like when he was first diagnosed, we went to a naturopath who gave us a whole heap of tablets, like that herbal tablets to support him while he's on treatment. And 4 years down the track, I'm still buying them and still filling up his little tray so that he takes them every morning. Every now and again, I sneak another one in and then take some out.
And Sylvia, I'm going to mention this. I know Mark talked about this a couple of weeks ago in his video, that it's just like the mandatory nurse comment that you guys did. You've told me. I know that you checked that with your pharmacist.
Yes. No, I don't give him, especially when he's on treatment. Like, when he's not on treatment, I'm a bit more lax with running things by, because it's not going to conflict with anything, and they're only supplements that the naturopath had given us to support his system anyhow, so to help his immune system. But every time he has treatment of any sort, I always run it by not the doctor so much, but the pharmacist. I go into Peter Mac and I just go, here's, I print up all the ingredients that are in it, and I say, this is what I want him to take, this is what he has been taking, and that they're fantastic. Like, they'll spend the time to make sure that nothing conflicts, because I don't want to do anything that's going to harm him. Well, not yet anyhow. No, I'm only joking.
Not today, at least.
No. Well, and I remember someone saying to me, you have to get the pharmacist to check the stuff. So his naturopath had given him some herbal teas, and I brought the ingredients in, and they said, no, you've got to take one component. It was St. John's wort. You've got to take that out because it'll conflict with his chemo. So I rang the naturopath and said, can you make me another batch without the St. John's wort? And she was happy to do it. It was nothing for her to do. But I think it's important that you don't just feed them everything. You've got to make sure that they're not going to have a reaction to it, like especially with chemo and, even Captem, everolimus, all of those. Anytime his treatment changed, I'd always be wandering off to the pharmacy going, can you check this for me? They're like, yeah, here she comes again.
Sylvie, before we started, you were talking about that actually, Mark's pretty well at the moment, but what is actually standing out to me is that even though Mark's pretty well, there's still actually a lot that you're doing to keep things ticking along. You're making sure that he takes his medication and the things to support his body. You're the one printing the lists and giving them to the pharmacy. You're the one who's fielding all of the inquiries and protecting your kids from, checking in and making sure they're not distressed, but getting enough information. Like, it still sounds to me like it's a fair whack of a bird, and even though you're not,
I call it
sponging him down.
Yeah, I call it a full-time job. Like, even when he's well, like, I seem to run on worry. So I know that doesn't sound right. Like, everyone has reasons to get up in the morning. And my stress levels are really high, but it keeps me on my toes with what is going on with everything with Mark, which is something that, I mean, I've just taken it upon myself to do it. I'm his wife. I love him dearly. And, you know, I want him to be around. So, because I see his kids, you know, at night when we watch TV, how Sienna's just all over him all the time. And Sam, you know, will go pick up Sienna with him so that she can have, you know, 10 minutes with her dad. So it's important that he remains healthy so that he can do things with them, you know. At the moment, lockdown has been really difficult, especially for Mark and myself, because we're both social people and we like to have our friends and people around, especially Mark. But it's also given us time to be together, just us. Whereas normally on weekends, he'd have 100 things that he's doing and he'd say to the kids, do you want to come? If you want to come, come. If you don't want to come, well, I'm going anyhow. Whereas he hasn't had that option to run away from us.
So in a way, coronavirus has given you a bit of an opportunity to spend a bit more time with just your family.
First lockdown, I just felt we got closer. I really did. Because of the fact that there wasn't 101 other people, it was just us. The second one's just lasting a bit too long for my liking. I think even I'm going stir crazy. Yeah.
Sylvie, we've talked a bit about some of the challenges for you, even when Mark's well. What are the things that you do that help you? You know, that sounds like a, you know, you said it's like a full-time job. What helps you get through those massive bumps, those pebbles? But no, they're bigger bumps. I know that you know what some of the things that our carers group talk about online. And I'll talk a bit more about that group in a minute. But tell us about some of your go-to strategies, I guess, for managing.
Okay, when he first got diagnosed, it took me about, I think, a good few months just to sort of get my head around what was actually going on and everything. I reached out to the Cancer Council and I had a lovely carer who rang me up and we spoke for a little bit. It was different because her husband had died. So she was talking from memory, and I think that, to me, I felt that she'd actually like forgotten things that, and look, it was a different cancer as well. He had bowel cancer. So it was totally different. But it was good to talk to someone who had been through what we were going through. Like I said, I think she was a lovely lady. I don't know very much about her, but because her husband had died, she'd put a lot of things behind, because when I was talking to her, she'd say, oh, yes, I remember feeling like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm counselling you now. But she only rang me twice, and then she said, oh, I can't ring you anymore. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So just got on with my life and, you know, with looking after Mark and looking after the kids and everything else. Then when we got back from overseas, Mark actually had gotten really, really sick and really, really thin. And he'd gone on, the two things he didn't want was IV chemo and to be an insulin-dependent diabetic. And when we got back, he was both. He had to go on IV chemo, which really played with his mind a bit, and also the insulin dependence. He was really, really didn't want to do it. Like he was happy to do tablets, but he wasn't happy to, you know, inject himself 4 times a day. And so we'd gotten into Peter Mac and we'd sat down and I said, look, I'm just going to go get something to drink. And I broke down. And one of the nurses, all to her credits, you know, put me in a little room and talked to me. And then she got me onto Fiona Wiseman from Peter Mac's social department. Amazing woman, amazing. Really helped me out a lot in every respect. Like and she'd always say to me, I know when you're not, something's going on. She goes, so I always look up Mark's files. She said, because you only talk to me when something's wrong. And I'm like, oh, well, now I feel bad. And she's like, no, that's my job. She goes, you know, and I used to go see her at least once a fortnight. So every time Mark had chemo, I'd go and spend an hour talking to her, which really grounded me and made me realize that, you know, I wasn't alone. But I haven't really spoken to her for quite a while. Now, to be quite honest, it's the Unicorns Carers page that I turn to the most. I love people in there, you know, and I love the fact that they can relate to me and my feelings, and not, they know exactly what I'm feeling, because they're going through it exactly now, right? It's not past tense for them. So, you know, it's just been amazing, and I use it a lot for venting or for talking about good days, bad days, you know, and you know, there's always a conversation going on that you can always relate to. It's so, I think that was the best thing we ever did, was get that page going, because we're all in the same boat as carers. Depending, it doesn't matter what stage our unicorns are at, we're all in the same boat, and we all have the same feelings.
And for those who are watching, Sylvie was one of the key people who said to us as an organisation, hey, we need a space.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm really grateful to you, Sylvie, for suggesting it, because it was, you know, it was a thought that had played around my mind, but I hadn't got to the point of going, yeah, let's start something. And then it was you and a couple of other people that made us really pull our finger. And so I guess that's, from what I'm hearing, Sylvie, it's been a mix of like professional support. So even, you know, getting the social worker at the hospital to give you, you know, and to her credit, she was really proactive about that. But we'll talk, and I will put lots of links at the end. I was doing a bit of research for today's topic, and I actually felt a little bit disappointed in myself, because there were actually quite a lot of things that I hadn't looked into and I wasn't aware of. And so that's really good for me now, because now that when I talk with more people on the phone, I'll be able to point them in the direction of those resources and services. But I'll put lots of notes about those
Great
things.
resource.
Yeah, because we've got to share the knowledge around about what's available for carers, because we know that it's like when we do surveys of distress levels and we look at people who have got cancer and we look at people who are caring for someone with cancer, often the distress levels are actually higher for the carers. Yeah. And so we're putting so much energy into supporting patients, which absolutely we need to do. But I feel like maybe as a cancer community over the historically, we probably haven't done so well with carers. And so I'm really keen, and we're really keen as an organisation, to redress some of that. And so people like you, Sylvie, have just been so central in improving that outlook, because I can imagine what it's what might work or what might be helpful, but actually I don't. How well would I know? Mm-hmm. So it's people like you who are actually living with it that really help provide a direction, like, you know, the really important direction of how we do things. So yeah.
Look, I think it's being a carer is not an easy gig. No one would want to be a carer, and I've heard from people that there are some that can't handle it and do leave their unicorns. That's not me. I'm not going anywhere. You know, I love the man dearly all the time. Well, most of the time, no, all the time. He's my world. You know, we've built an amazing life together, and for as long as the ride is going, I'm there. You know, I'm not jumping off yet. So yeah. What can I say?
I know Mark's watching.
Oh, is he? Is there any smart ass comments yet?
I'll leave you to find that out. We'll Okay. But I feel like we all, that a lot of us at, you know, Neuroendocrine Cancer Australia, those who hang around the traps in the Facebook groups and in our events and things, know Mark pretty well. And I think there's a deep affection for him in all of our lives. So yeah, we all appreciate what you do too, Sylvie. I wanted to ask you, what things do people assume about being a carer? Or what do they not know? What would, like, you know, what was surprising for you?
So much. Like, honestly, I don't think anyone who's not a carer can quite comprehend what it's like to be one, to put someone else's life before your own, because basically that's what we do. You know, we worry about them more than we worry about ourselves. Well, I know I do. Like, I've been meaning to go to the doctors for ages, and I thought the other day, I've just got to do it. But if it was Mark, I'd be on that phone, I'd be ringing every doctor, I'd be emailing Michael, and I'd be doing everything that I could to make sure that he got what he needed, you know. So it's very difficult being a carer. It's also hard because people look at Mark and go, oh yeah, everything's good. And I go, yeah, but you don't know. So I think that's a really difficult thing to make them understand, that just because the outside looks good doesn't mean the inside's playing along, you know. And there's no little window that we can open and say, yeah, everything's cool. You know, you do your PET scans, can't make heads or tails out of them. And I read the reports, I read the blood work, and I just go, I'm not a doctor, I don't know. But people just seem to assume that, you know, it's either he's fine, or it's like breast cancer or colon cancer, where, you know, he'll go through, or leukemia, where he'll go through treatment and then in 6 months he'll be fine. He'll go into remission. They don't understand that there is no remission for this, you know, unless it can be operated on and removed. There's no way of, you know, changing the fact that my husband's got cancer, you know, and there's nothing that they can do. So you find people stop asking, you know, like I've had people who just don't even talk to me anymore because they don't know what to say, right? So they just don't. Yeah. So you'll see him walking down the street and you'll go to say hi, and they'll turn around and you go, oh, okay, fair enough. How does
that impact on you personally, Sylvie? Because that's your
you know what? Well. Look, I'm a firm believer, and I've always been a firm believer that your true friends are your true friends. Whether they know what to say, whether they don't, they'll say something, right? And so if someone's not going to talk to me, then they're not a friend. Like, I don't believe that I need to be friends with everyone to be happy. So I just go, oh, well, if you can't deal with something that really has no impact on you, then you're not there to support me or my husband or my kids. So let's just leave it at that, and you go one way and I'll go the other, and we'll all be right.
So if someone's wondering what to say to you, or to someone who, you know, a family member or a person who's dealing with this, what are some of the things that people have said that have been good, or at least not awful? Like, you tell us some examples, give us some hints.
Oh, look, I think the biggest one was, I don't know what to say, so can you guide me? You know, but I'm here to listen, you know, like, it's sometimes we don't want them to say anything. We just want them to either just be normal, just whatever normal was before all this happened, or just not say anything like that, but just have a, you know, or even ask questions. I don't know. I don't pay too much mind to what's going through other people's heads. And with my close friends, my really close friends, they always say, how are you? And then, how's Mark? Whereas people who are not close friends will go, how's Mark? And that's where the conversation will stop. So, and I go, I'm right, thanks.
Tip for those playing at home.
Yeah.
Check in and maybe it's not always firstly asking about the patient. Yeah.
And look, I've got a few nurse friends who do, you know, say, how are you first? And, you know, because they get it. I think when you're surrounded by people who are ill, you realise that, you know, there are people that are there who haven't got any illness, well, that need, you know, it'd be nice to have people say, how are you going? So, but you know what, I don't pay too much mind, you know, like it doesn't faze me one way or the other. It's just something that people assume that, you know, it's all about the person who's ill.
So I'm getting, I think, tell me if I'm reading it right, Sylvie, but it sounds like people maybe worry too much about saying the wrong thing and then don't say anything and avoid you, and that's worse than saying nothing. And it's more about just being authentic and giving a.
And look, I'm the first to put my foot in my mouth and say something wrong, but at least I try. Like, I say something, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, if they do or if they don't say anything, it's not going to change my situation and my husband's situation. you know, we are making the most of, and we're living every moment to the fullest. Like this COVID has really, really put a dampener on the fact that we've got a caravan out there that we can't use, right, to make brilliant memories. Yeah. So yeah, we're trying our best just to keep going and, you know, make sure that the girls are happy, make sure Daniel's happy, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're doing a ripper job of that. So. Sylvie, I've got one more question for you, and that is, if you could look back 4 years ago and Sylvie now, give Sylvie back then some advice. Is there anything you'd tell Sylvie from 4 years ago?
Yeah, I tell her not to stress about the little things that are out of her control. There's certain things that you have the ability to change, and in the beginning it was really difficult to accept that I couldn't change anything. I'd also surround myself with people that really care, which is really difficult at the moment with the 5K rule, because a lot of my support people are not 5Ks away, they're more than that.
We're all hanging out for this, aren't we?
And not to take it to heart when, you know, people don't know what to say, you know, because at first I took it to heart that, you know, oh, they're not saying anything, or, you know, whereas now it's like, nah. Yeah, so, and just to make the most of every single day, because nothing's promised. Even if you don't have cancer, nothing is promised. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone. You know, it makes it more, I suppose, more prevalent if you have an illness that is going to, or may eventually get you in the end. But, you know, how many people have car accidents, and, you know.
Yeah, none of us are getting out of this alive, are we? So.
Like, you know, my dad's had open heart surgery, but, you know, he keeps bouncing back, and, you know, so I just think it's just to make the most of your relationship, make the most of your friendships, make the most of your, you know, family time, and really, really connect.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so brilliant to hear your thoughts. And I'm just reading through the comments and seeing just lots of shout outs to Sylvie. One question from someone whose initials may be MC about your opinion about custom Harley Davidsons, but maybe I'll let you get back to that person after our
Does he want to live?
Does he want to live?
Does he want to live? Because he's had like 4 since I've been with him. So that's enough.
And one of the things I know about you, Sylvia, we were talking about coping strategies before. One of the things I know about you, and actually I see it so much in our carers group and in our main group as well, is this sometimes very black sense of humour. But I think that's probably, from my observation, a pretty central part to the way that the Camilleri family do this.
Yeah, you should see our little ones, and we always go, stop being a smart ass, and then we look at each other and go, what hope has she got? She's never going to be a docile little girl, because she's one of us. Yeah. You know, she's made up from 2 pretty headstrong people who, you know, say what they think and do what they want. So,
and thank heavens for that, because we love you guys, and
we love you too.
I'm going to talk a bit about the Facebook groups, and I know that people are watching us at the moment in the Facebook groups, but people will also be watching us via YouTube. We know that not everyone's in Facebook, so if you're not a Facebook user, then we're actually currently exploring some options for providing some more kind of connection and support outside of Facebook. So that's something we're actively working towards at the moment. But coming back to our Facebook groups, there's 2 main groups. There's a general private discussion group. The way it works is that you can join the group, and your Facebook friends can't see that you're in the group, so it's not on your profile anywhere, and what you write in the group space is only visible to other people in the group. So Sylvie, in the main group, I know that you've got family members and people in that group, and they can see the comments that, you know, you might put, but it's only the people who are in those groups that can see those comments. So we've also got the carers group that we started fairly recently, probably 6 months or maybe a little bit.
I think it was a bit longer than that. It was about this time last year, I think, just after the ball.
Time flies.
I know.
And the carers group is a much more, it's a small intimate space, and it's really for primary, mostly primary carers. So it's a lot of partners or, you know, direct caregivers. And sometimes I get people requesting membership into that group who are patients, because I think actually that's really touching, because they're clearly really keen to understand the needs and issues for carers. But no, this is a carer space only. There's also been some situations where people, like a married couple, might share a Facebook profile, or sometimes we've got people who they're not only they have nets, but they are also a carer. But for this group, it's people who their primary role, the only role they have in the net space, is as a carer. So and it's an intimate space, and it's a chance to really connect with other people who really get it and understand the impact and challenges of caring for someone with nets. So I'll make sure I put links to both of those things for those of you who are watching in spaces that are not those. Sylvie, just before I move on to other things, I'm just looking down at my notes, so I just wanted to check if there's anything else that you wanted to say.
I did want to say something about the carers group. I understand that, you know, when we first set this up, that some of the patients wanted to join, and like you said, the ones that have got the United Facebook pages, the reason why I personally, as a carer, didn't want that to happen was purely because sometimes you just need to blow off steam, and the people in this group, in the carers group, just understand that you don't hate your partner, you don't want to leave, you don't want to put them down, you just need to vent. And it's really difficult, because I know how, well, I think I know how Mark would react if he heard someone else say that, you know, they wanted to hit their partner with a shovel, you know, which no one's saying. No one's
ever said that, ever. In history.
I wouldn't want, like, a patient, you know, someone with nets, to think that their partners are thinking that. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes when you vent, you just want to be able to blow off a bit of steam and know that you're not going to get judged and you're not going to hurt anyone, because that's the biggest thing with us carers. We don't want to hurt our unicorns. We want to support them and lift them up as much as possible, but we all get down, right? We all have really bad days. Like, I know now, I've never suffered from anxiety before, and now I do, and I know I do. I've spoken to my doctor about it. It's not like drug taking levels, but I know that I don't cope as well as I used to, and another carer will understand that, whereas a patient might not. So that's why this space is really, really important to us. And we are so glad that we did it, you know, for everyone.
Me too. Sylvie, the other thing that you mentioned earlier on was about Cancer Connect, which was the telephone program that you alluded to. So that's a collaboration we have with the Cancer Council, where they train volunteers, and we've got quite a number of people who've had nets or have nets and are providing that one-to-one telephone support. We currently don't have any carers, so that's a conversation that I have with Cancer Council every year, and this year it's been really challenging because the trainings all had to go via Zoom and everything. But if that's something that, you know, on reflection, that would be something that you'd be, if you're viewing, if you're watching this would be something that you might be interested in, supporting other people over the phone who are caring for someone with nets. Please feel free to reach out and make contact with me, and then I can pass your name and details on to the Cancer Council for when they're doing more training. And as I said, it won't be anytime, you know, immediately, but I'm really keen to have as many channels for people to get that support as possible. And I think there is such huge value in the get it factor that comes from talking to another person who's sort of walked down that path. So yeah, just a note about the Cancer Connect, and I've talked a bit about the carers group. I'm going to just move on to a couple of other little housekeeping things before we finish up today, and thanks everybody for tuning in and watching us. There's been a lot of online events over the last 6 months in Australia, but and so for us as a Neuroendocrine Cancer Australia, the focus for us was very much on getting the Friday broadcast up and running so that we could sort of really be responsive and give you guys the information that you needed in a sort of fairly quick turnaround. But we've now had a chance to plan some webinars. So there's actually some sort of more structured online events coming with speakers that will have presentations prepared. So two imminent ones that I wanted to let you know about. The first one's just around the corner, and it's on the 5th of Now I'm showing myself up. I'm pretty sure it's the 5th. It is. Phew. It's 5th of November, and it's talking about a really rare form of neuroendocrine cancer called Merkel cell carcinoma. And actually, interestingly, when we asked our consumer advisory group whether our flyers and our things were going to work for, you know, what they thought and if there was any feedback, and a couple of them didn't even really, like a lot of people with NETs don't even have even heard of Merkel cell carcinoma. And they didn't realize it was a neuroendocrine cancer, which was really interesting. So there's obviously some, even in our own community, we need to inform ourselves a little bit more about this particular type of neuroendocrine cancer, which occurs, it's a skin cancer. That's a neuroendocrine cancer. So we're really thrilled to be doing a webinar on the 5th of November, and the registration for that is actually currently available on our website. So if you know someone who may have Merkel cell carcinoma, or you're interested in knowing more about that, it's a really different type of NET, but we're keen to make sure that we fill all of the gaps in people's knowledge about these things, and that will be recorded and it'll go onto our YouTube for future for people who need to access that information. The second one that I really want to highlight is going to be on World NET Cancer Day, which is the 10th of November, so coming up in less than a month, and that is a State of the Nation online event, and we're going on a we can't travel in person to all of the various states and talk with all of the professors and people of knowledge in each of those states, but we will be having them all join us in this online event and hearing an update of what's going on, what research is happening, what developments are in the pipeline in each of the major centres of excellence in Australia for NET. So Royal Brisbane and Women's, we've got a couple of speakers. We've got some speakers from Sydney at Royal North Shore. We've got obviously, you know, Peter Mac, we've got a couple of speakers. We've got some people from Adelaide and our friends over in WA from Fiona Stanley. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what they've all got to say, and it's fairly rapid fire, so we're going to keep them on their toes and keep them moving, and there'll be some time for questions and answers too. So registration will be open any minute on the website. I think it's not quite there yet, but we'll be, you know, tooting our horns about that probably next week on Facebook and so forth. So keep an eye out for that to register. The third webinar we've just sort of confirmed it, and it's actually, a lot of you will have might have even seen videos from this person. You've heard me talk about her a lot if you've listened to me talk at all, and it's a specialist NET dietitian called Erin Lang. Erin has been over the last few years working on a PhD specifically looking at nutritional issues for people with NETs. We know that so many people have gut issues, problems with absorbing nutrients, vitamin deficiency syndromes because of the hormones. So it's really quite complex side effects from treatment and the malabsorption of some things. So Erin has just finished submitting her PhD, and it's very exciting. And she's now at a point where she can make what she found out in that PhD process public. So she's going to be coming along and talking with us for a webinar on and I really would have been good for me to write this down on one piece of paper, but it's on the 24th, Tuesday, the 24th of November. That's one for health professionals as well as patients who are really interested. So it's going to be in a fair amount of detail. So if you've got someone like a dietitian in your local area, we'll make sure we'll be sending the details out in our e-newsletter and on our social media, and so we're really keen for you to share that with your health professionals as well. She's actually promised to do a follow-up Facebook Friday one-on-one chat with me and to take a few more Q&A questions from our online community. So that Facebook Friday will be on the 3rd of December, but I'll give you lots of sorry, I beg your pardon, the 4th of December, but I'll give you lots of heads up about that when it's closer to the time. But I just wanted you to pop it in your diary because it's going to be really a couple of very good events. So that's enough of me talking. Sylvie, thank you so much. You've been amazing. I've just enjoyed hearing your story so much. I just think you guys are all amazing, the work that you do as carers, and the image of this my phone's talking at me. The image that comes to mind is of the swan that's sort of gracefully gliding along the surface of the water, and underneath the water is like scurrying these feet, little paddling feet. And I feel like you guys, you carers, are like that, where you make everything seem quite serene and in control on the surface, but underneath is so much work just to keep everyone afloat. And so I really appreciate you sharing some of those experiences with us today, because I feel like we need to appreciate that and know that about the people that we are and that we're working with. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope I've helped someone. I hope someone reaches out, uses any of the tips and reaches out. Like I've got a few now, I classify them as friends that, we have little chats just through Messenger, when things are down, or just to see how they're going with their, unicorns. And it's just amazing. You build this, you don't know them, you've never seen them, but you feel like they're part of your family now. Yeah. So it's really important as a carer to reach out.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting me tell my story.
No, it's been wonderful. And just before we go, I saw you waving a very special looking pen around.
My little unicorns.
And those of you who are in the group will know there's quite a lot of unicorn paraphernalia.
I've got a duck for Mark, because I don't know if everyone knows that his nickname is Duck. So there's ducks all over our house.
Ducks and unicorns. It's magical paradise.
Yeah, so it's a mixture of unicorns and ducks.
Thank you, Sylvie. We're gonna wind up. I'm just gonna press stop on the live feed. So give me a sec while I do that, and we'll catch up.